Hello, everyone. We're going to look today at IBM Tealeaf Customer Experience Analytics, and we're going to discuss some of the ways in which its analytical insights can provide a great deal of value to people in many different industries and many different types of departments as well. We'll discuss some use cases around things like marketers who may be interested in increasing their conversion rate, or UI designers who may be interested in making improvements to the site in which they're designing. We'll talk about ways in which IT organizations and developers can find and fix technical problems and drastically reduce the amount of time necessary to investigate and solve complex technical issues with websites and applications. We'll start by looking at the analytics screen that you can see on the screen here before you. So what we're looking at is a series of reports that have been custom built. Now, those reports can be built by IBM or our partners, or we can actually train our customers to build these reports for themselves. It's not a particularly difficult process to build these reports, but they are customized for each of our customers, and we develop them to deliver on the key performance indicators and the specific business metrics that our customers are most interested in. We'll start by looking at some of these different reports and talking about ways in which they differ from more traditional web analytics tools. You'll see at the bottom of the screen here a process flow for the checkout process. This is not going to be unfamiliar for many retail clients. This is a report that you may already have, but there's a pretty significant difference between Tealeaf and other web analytics and customer experience analytics tools, and that is our ability to actually drill down and get to a great deal more detail in the level of reporting that we do and the root cause analysis that we can do when we see things that we don't quite understand in the data. So let's take a look here initially at a more detailed view of that process flow check for the checkout process. So we'll see here that there's a significant number of abandoned sessions that are happening here between the review order and the final purchase stage. And so if we're curious about that, we can actually click on that number and get into a much more detailed view of exactly what the root cause is of these individual abandonments. So we can order this by a number of different columns. We have many different views that we can actually review as well, but what we're looking at here are individual replayable customer sessions. So at the bottom of the screen here, each of these 35 sessions represents somebody who abandoned from the review into the purchase page and did not successfully complete a purchase. So we could group these by certain factors like web browser or country of origin or attempted payment method, and that would help us to gain a deeper understanding of what may actually be going wrong within these individual sessions. So as we investigate and study issues within Tealeaf, once we've started to isolate some of the specific contributing factors to a problem like abandonment, we can actually drill down and replay those individual sessions. So that's what we've done here. We've opened one of those sessions for replay. And I can press the play button here and actually follow along in near real time to kind of what the customer is actually seeing. And you'll notice here on the main portion of the screen, you're seeing a visual representation of everything that the customer saw as a part of their session. We see that they searched for cooking, and then we see all of the individual results that they got that were product matches for that particular search term. We'll see if they drill down and select a product, and we actually will show that they've added that product to their shopping cart. Here in the left-hand navigation pane, you'll see individual screens that the client saw as a part of their journey. So we can see as they navigate from page to page. And then on each individual page, you'll see clicks and keystrokes and things of that nature that indicate client inputs on a specific page. So we can sit back and we can replay that session and see exactly what went on or what went wrong inside that session. We'll see as somebody adds an item to the shopping cart, as they go through the checkout flow, and then we can get a deeper level of understanding for what may have gone wrong as a part of that session. We'll see that there's some basic information up at the top here that we can identify the operating system, see the number of screens that took place inside that individual session. And so we can sit back and more passively view this, or we can navigate through by looking at this left nav panel and skipping ahead to those specific pages that we're most interested in. So this is, of course, useful for marketers for understanding what went wrong during the checkout process. However, our IT and designers, IT users and UI and UX designers may actually be interested in looking at the raw data as well. So we can see the individual request and response that are part of one of these individual sessions. So we can look at the raw code behind that. So we can see the actual contributing HTML and JSON that show us the specific technical issues that may be going on with a particular page. So if you're not a particularly adept web developer, that's fine, because you don't actually need to look at this raw code if you're not interested in it. But if you do have a more technical background, our IT users and the like will definitely find a lot of value in studying this type of information, in addition to the visual component of replay sessions as well. So these replay sessions are the sort of core foundational element of our investigative tools. However, looking at these individual reports can often tell us a lot of information before we get in and isolate any of that specific replay information as well. So I can create a number of key performance indicator reports that will show me things that are either above or below desired metrics. So if my errors are going up or my sales are going down, I can produce reports which give me a deeper level of insight into those trends, so that in addition to studying what's going on at the micro level in a specific replay session, I can get into and replay sessions by looking first at this macro level. I can see a month-over-month comparison, or I can see how many individual sessions contain a failed search metrics, and then I can see, am I above or below my desired thresholds for those particular values. So in addition to things like KPI reports and process flows, we can create more standardized reports that simply show us basic metrics. I can see a pie chart that gives me a breakdown of what my traffic looks like. I can see a bar graph that shows me overall trends day over day. I can also see things like geo reports. So I can basically use the either IP addresses or the cell phone tower data to determine where are my clients actually coming to the site from. And I can further investigate and drill down into those types of reports and actually replay problem sessions from specific geographic areas as well. These reports can be grouped together, as you see here on the screen, into individual dashboards, if you will. Each tab represents a separate collection of reports which are going to be interesting to a particular person or a particular department within our organization. So we can gain a lot of insight and understanding simply by producing these types of reports to show us what's going on within our organization. So we focus on these types of reports in an effort to get high-level understanding of what's going right or wrong within the organization, but then we leverage things like replay to further investigate when we see specific anomalies or trends that we don't understand. That's a key differentiator between, again, web analytics tools and customer experience analytics tools like Tealeaf, is our ability to open and expand each individual one of these reports and then get deeper dive understanding into specifically what's going right or what's going wrong inside these individual sessions. So I can compare and contrast the number of successful checkouts by city, by state, or even by country as well. New functionality that we've introduced is anomaly detection. And this leverages the powerful cognitive capabilities of Watson to study not just what is actively happening on the site today, but what we suspect or what Watson has investigated and determined should be happening on the site. The number of payment errors that we receive, we anticipate that to be relatively flat day over day. But over the last few days, we've seen a very steady increase in those number of errors. So Watson shows us a trend line versus the actual value so that we can determine whether or not our errors are going up or going down. That will help us to understand if we are in fact inside of normal parameters or normal thresholds, or if something is genuinely going wrong with the site. Watson can compare day over day, week over week, totals from specific metrics so that we can determine if there are, in fact, significant problems that are happening on the site. So Watson is constantly doing this sort of analysis and bringing to our attention these sorts of problems as they arise. So we can be notified in a proactive manner of when we see certain trends going in the wrong direction. So we can examine each individual day to see what are the contributing factors here, what are the specific values that we're observing, and what are we expecting to see. So we're constantly analyzing and leveraging data that Watson is collecting so that we can gain much deeper insights into what's going on within our organization and on our sites and applications. Watson does the work of many, many analysts by proactively studying this type of data and bringing it to our attention so that we can do deeper dive investigations of it. So we can produce this sort of anomaly data around any of the individual reports we build in Tealeaf, and there's no additional effort that goes into that process. It's a fairly self-contained report. However, we can have this sent out to us in a much more proactive way if we're monitoring things after, let's say, like a technical change to the site. We've launched a new version. We're curious what the impact has been to payment errors. We can create a report and do anomaly detection within that report to see exactly how frequently these sorts of issues are occurring. In addition to a robust array of reporting capabilities within Tealeaf, we also have a great deal of insight that can be gained by looking at overstat overlays or snapshots. These are individual reports that we can create around specific pages to determine what's going on those pages. Now, all we need to do is define which of these pages we're interested in, and then automatically Tealeaf calculates and records all of the individual clicks and activity of visitors to the site so that we can be notified of what the overall trends are within the organization. Now, you'll see here within this screen that we are looking at a number of user interactions across different areas of the site. This heat map shows us exactly where people are clicking on the site and helps us to understand where there may be technical issues, for instance. Now, you'll notice that there's a picture of this woman here wearing this lovely dress. Now, people are clicking on this image. Unfortunately, our site designers did not anticipate that they would be doing that, so that is not a clickable asset. So we observe that behavior and then try to decide why is it that people are interacting with that control, and do we need to change that image to actually hyperlink it to a specific product. So even though the site is working as designed, visitors to the site are perhaps approaching things with a different expectation. So we need to observe that sort of behavior and then make modifications of our site design in order to match our customer expectations. Within any individual overlay, we can also drill down and look at data in more detail. You'll see here that we have customers who are clicking on this particular portion of the screen, but there's not actually any resources for them to click on. Now, why is that? Why are people clicking on this portion of the screen? What sort of contributing factors are there that are contributing to that specific problem? Now, we can drill down and look at that information. So we can actually get to each individual customer session within that information and see all of those individual contributing sessions and drill down even further to replay those individual sessions as well. So by looking at heat maps, we're able to understand kind of what the design of the page how the design of the page is impacting our customers. So our UI designers, our developers can study that sort of information and find areas where they may make improvements to the site, fix common misconceptions, technical misconceptions people may have about the design layout of the site, and overall just contribute to the positivity of the customer experience online. In addition to that, we can look at form analytics, which tells us not just information about design, but where are people abandoning, not just on what page do they abandon, but on which individual form element do they abandon? Which text boxes do they fill out, and which text boxes do they skip? So if we have customers dropping out on a specific page, we can actually study which form elements on that page are contributing to that sort of abandonment. So we can gain a great deal of understanding of ways in which we might make improvements to the layout of our form elements. We can also look at things like dwell time. How much time do people spend on each individual text box? Why does one text box require 14 seconds of user time and others only take between 1 to 5 seconds? Well, we can investigate that sort of behavior and try to isolate the technical problems or design problems which may be contributing to customers taking a longer time to fill out certain form elements. And based on our observations here, we can make a great deal of improvement to the speed and accuracy with which our customers can get through and fill out these forms, thereby increasing our conversion rate and dramatically improving the overall financial position of our organization by making these kinds of steady improvements to the customer checkout process. So we also can look at things like attention maps. And attention maps will show us, as we scroll throughout the screen, where are people focusing most of their clicks and most of their attention. Now you'll notice this red area is where we're receiving the most attention. That is where most people are interacting with the page. But if we scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see in these areas of green and gray that there's very little customer interactivity happening on these portions of the screen. So that is particularly problematic because any of the content we have down there is not being seen by visitors to our site and thereby is being ignored. So we need to determine what we can change about the layout of this screen to maybe move more important content higher up in the screen or change the layout of this screen to make more of these areas more readily visible to the client. We can see the average fold line and determine exactly how many people have to scroll to get to certain portions of the screen. We may decide not to include certain key areas or key pieces of functionality below that line so that we can make sure that the maximum number of people are seeing that content and can interact with it. Our designers, our marketers can both benefit from understanding how these kinds of improvements can happen within the site. Another very significantly valuable piece of functionality is struggle analytics. In addition to anomaly detection, this is another area in which we leverage the great cognitive capabilities of Watson to do a great deal of work on our behalf. Watson is constantly studying every single visitor to our site and every single session, as well as every single click and interaction with the screen that our clients are going through while they're navigating through our site or application. We study this sort of information by looking at struggle analytics, and we designate certain key areas of functionality on the site, and then Watson will notify us when we're seeing anomalous behavior. So if we see something that we don't quite understand, we can further examine that information, and Watson will show us the most egregious examples of customer struggle. It'll show us that, in this case, almost 1 in 4 visitors to our site is struggling with form fields and repeating text boxes on a particular page. So Watson will identify that information and bring it to our attention here on this dashboard so that we can gain a greater understanding of what is technically going wrong for those sessions. So this is basically like a giant magnet bringing all of the needles out of the haystack directly to our attention. If we drill down into an individual area of struggle analytics, we can see that there are certain sessions that are the most egregious examples of customer struggle. It'll show us the total number of times this has happened and what percentage of our overall customers are having this issue, and it'll assign a basic struggle score to certain areas as well so that we can see how significant this example or this particular type of struggle actually is on the site. This is very helpful to us at isolating problems that we didn't even know that we had. We leverage the cognitive capabilities of Watson to analyze the specific areas of the site where people are having technical problems. Our analysts and business intelligence users will be keenly interested in this type of information because it can help them understand exactly how widespread these issues are. Our IT organization may be interested in this type of report because it tells them exactly where they should spend their time and money on resolving issues, because it can show exactly where and how widespread specific technical problems are impacting the site. Setting up struggle analytics is very straightforward, and it's something that any of our clients can do themselves. We can come in here and actually map individual pages to very quickly say, these are the areas of focus on our site that we want to do this sort of analytics for. And this is something that can be set up in 15 or 20 minutes on the very first day of a Tealeaf implementation and start bringing out-of-the-box value basically right away. So we can analyze this type of struggle based on just a few minutes of work at the very beginning of the project. We map the key areas of our site, and then Watson immediately starts listening and examining all of those sessions and studying exactly where these technical problems are contributing to customer struggle and contributing to things like abandonment and error messages as well. So once we've mapped out all those individual pages, we can come in and look at the individual struggle factors as well. And this is something that is going to be unique for each client. We can say, are factors like load time or the number of page clicks or repeating of certain patterns or individual interactions with specific UI elements, are those contributing to struggle? We can create our own struggle events as well, and then adjust these thresholds. If I want to focus more on page load time, perhaps I'm a IT user, I can adjust these factors so that more and more attention is being paid to that specific metric. So we can highlight and focus on the issues that are most important to us as an organization in an effort to better understand what type of struggle we're seeing and how negative experiences that clients are having on the website are contributing to certain factors like conversion or abandonment. Once we've defined and mapped out our pages and then sort of set our struggle thresholds, we can very quickly come in and look at thresholds as well. So I can say, I want to see only struggle scores of, let's say, over 70 will be triggered, or only over a certain percentage of people who are experiencing that kind of struggle. And this way, I can be notified when there's specific examples of struggle happening. So I can be told in real time when struggle is happening on the site. So an on-call engineer, for example, can be introduced to these specific instances of customer struggle so they can start investigating these types of issues much more quickly than relying on clients notifying us or calling in to complain or sending us email feedback. We can define alerts for any area that we need to be notified of problems in with a very proactive level of acuity and quickness of being notified of these sorts of problems. So as we create alerts, what we're doing is defining the key metrics that we require to be notified of if they exceed or fall below certain thresholds. So we can define any individual user or group of users to be notified when this type of problem happens. And these alerts can be monitoring the site 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and notifying us when specific problems are happening. Many users will use Tealeaf for finding and fixing problems. Our IT organization may investigate high-level trends. We may have people who are simply responding to customer feedback. So they may come into Tealeaf and search for individual sessions based on notifications that they receive about specific problems, customer complaints, things of that nature. So as we are examining particular sessions, we can sort and organize them in ways to better understand trends and top-line metrics that are changing over time. So we can see, are there particular commonalities that we see in people experiencing certain issues? Are we primarily seeing problems with users of Chrome? Are we primarily seeing issues with iOS devices? Is it a particular model of iPhone that's most likely to receive a particular problem on the site? We can create individual filters, and we can completely customize this view to add as many columns as we like, so that as we're investigating problems, we can have many data points available to us for better understanding the common areas of contributing factors to particular error messages, instances of customer struggle, long page load times, things of that nature. These sorts of information points are extremely valuable at isolating and identifying technical problems within the site. So we've discussed the importance of replay, and yes, it is quite simply a very important part of what we do within Tealeaf. However, replay is only one component of many. We talked about the importance of custom analytics that are built directly for our clients to suit their unique business needs. We've talked about the specific importance of looking at things like heat maps and click maps. And always we incorporate replay into those investigations to gain a better understanding of what's going on. But hopefully this has given you a greater level of insight into the breadth and depth of all the various technical capabilities of Tealeaf, as well as ways in which it might specifically be beneficial to you and your organization and many different types of users within your organization as well. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. Please contact us with any technical questions that you have. Thank you very much.